Good morning. This is kind of a mishmash of just a few things that I've been watching and discussing with you. And so, just to continue on my train of thoughts in a few of those. So, we're going to look at Nano-Sapiens, which we're becoming. We're going to look at totalitarianism, kind of get into that subject and continue a little bit more on my talk about hormones. And we're going to look at what's happening in space. So lots of things, but I'll try. It's all the dots connect because all these dots run together. Because this really is the omnivore. So first things first. Gold keeps going up in price, and that is an indicator that something is going to happen economically, which it is, because they're going to crash the economy. It's a slow crash in Canada. It may speed up quite rapidly. We don't know what they're going to do, but when you see gold prices go up, it usually means something happened. Gold and silver. So economically, that's one part. Omnivore just means it's like a mosaic war, that there are many battlefields and most people don't even know they're in them because they've blamed you for all the problems that are out there when really it's technocratic social engineering. So there's that. And as we continue on at looking at hormones, so I did my video and I'm just about completed my article on it about birth control and how that affects women and affects society at large. I just have to reinforce here that none of this is by accident, and our bodies, our internal world and mind are a war zone, is a battlescape, because the toxic things that they are pumping into this world from God knows how many locations, right, that are going into our bodies, these things, that's the nano-sapiens, right, are you could look at it, people would call it black magic, the dark arts, but the dark arts are really just occultism, which is information that you don't know. It's secret information that has been, as God is my witness, David Whitehead points it out so perfectly on this 3 hour, it's long, but every last bit of it is worth, podcast about the occult origin of totalitarianism. So these hidden arts, these dark arts that people had access to, and right now we have a few that know and most that have no idea. So they understand how your internal body works. So they create these chemicals, right, that mimic your body and make your body change. And change who you are, change who you're interested in. They change the role of the woman. They change it from inside. With not just birth control, that's one form. And then everybody going through menopause is put on these fucking things. I wasn't, thank God. Thank God. They change you. They change you at an atomic level. They are fucking around with the cells of your life. And it's with every last product that these pharmacia make, because they're not made for the benefit of mankind. They have dual use, right? The military has figured this out over what? How many millennia, whatever is running this show understands your body and how it runs, and your mind and how it works, right? And how your thoughts and fear and all of that affect how you react. And so they have created substances that are supposed to do this, but in actuality, what their real role is to do something else. And then you look, men, you're not absent from this, right? Because they're doing it with you in different ways from some of the things that you ingest, right? They have endocrine disruptors in everything, to disrupt the endocrine system. And the target is reproduction, right? So these things end up in the testes and they change hormonal levels so that in a man that is supposed to have higher testosterone levels, and they're plummeting, right? The testosterone levels, right? But from these hormone mimickers, these female hormones that aren't, they're synthetic hormones. But they understand that synthetic hormones will bond at the receptor site of cells. So they understand how your body works. And have left you in the dark through indoctrination and enculturation, right? To believe that these people want the best for you. Oh my, please wake up. They don't. They don't want the best for you. And that's just, you look at statins that actually create this host of other problems, right? Or pantoprazole type, the proton pump inhibitors that cause cognitive problems and I saw it all. I saw it all when I worked with the people that I did. I came to understand what psychiatric medicines were, and that they were just chemical lobotomies, and they did nothing to help people. They made them zombies, most of them, right? Or created, we see from antidepressants what that all causes, the increase in violence. And they know all of this. They know what these things do. And it even goes so far as people, I can't prove this, that it opens certain vortex or portals. But there is hard evidence that at an atomic level, we're just vibrating, things come in and out of being, these electrons, protons, whatever. And this is where the warfare is at. That's where they're at you, right? And then they have you either by coercion or by scaring the fucking pants off of you to inject shit into you that is full of this. The operating system, and they don't lie about it. They tell you. But if you're mind controlled, you cannot see it. You cannot see it. Now, when I was younger, I started birth control at 16. I ended in my 30s, the same time that I stopped drinking and stuff like that. I was like, until my 30s, I was full on fucking asleep. I was living by programs. I couldn't feel. I'd shut that off. So it was stopping the birth control, stopping the drinking, stopping the drugs, the cigarettes, getting healthy and working out has allowed me to understand what I'm seeing because I lived through it. And then I saw it with all my patients. Then I saw it in the emergency department, the purposeful drugging of elderly people, right? On all this fucking garbage that would make them worse, right? Oh yeah, they started a new pill. Before that, they were doing fine. And then they started this, and now they're falling, and now they're doing this. And then it creates, and again, don't think it's done by chance. It isn't. It creates what is looked at by that fucking fascist state, the hospital, that these people become a burden to society, and that's the way they're couched, and that's what they make people believe. Not that they're, older and they have wisdom regardless of what's happening with the body, and that maybe we want to be able to care for human beings in our society. But no, they've shut you off. Do you know that Tylenol, that's one of the biggest things with Tylenol that they have found, is that it turns off empathy. Now they're saying it causes all autism. No, there's the toxins in the air, they do. And the series of these that you start from the moment the child comes out of the womb, and the shit that's going into the mother's body, and all the fucking crap that's in the fucking air. Oh my God. The book that I'm reading, I've been telling you about, the geoengineering one by Elena Freeman. Freeland. I want to call her Freeman. Freeland. I have to read it slowly because it's an overwhelming bit of read. What they have been doing up in the air, and do not think that does not affect us. We're electric. You fuck around with the electric and the electric system of this whole fucking planet. Do you think it doesn't have an effect on us? Remember, we are all together. This is an ecosystem, and if you know anything about how ecosystems work, everything is there for a purpose. You got somebody fucking around in that? Let me give you just one description about that part of the war that's on you. So, starting in 1958, 67 years ago, they launched the first satellite. It was Explorer 1. What they found, there were problems. There was these charged particles that surrounded the Earth. It's called the Van Allen radiation belt. It's about 5,000, starts about 5,000 miles up to 32,000. Above the Earth, like a net, capturing charged particles from solar and galactic winds and spiraling them down along the magnetic lines of force that comprise the magnetosphere. So that's where the the magnetosphere, remember that, until they converge at the poles on the extraordinary Arctic and Antarctic auroras. Immediately, the U.S. Navy detonated 3 nuclear bombs in the belt under Operation Argus. And they just kept doing it until, you know what? In 1961, under Project Westford, the U.S. Army launched 480 million tiny copper needles, half the wavelength of 8,000 megahertz microwaves, that began the creation of a permanent metallic ring of these little antennas around the tablet to serve as an artificial ionosphere. And then they detonated more, and so what they actually did was destroy it. So this was from one of the scientists. The inner Van Allen belt will be practically destroyed for a period of time, and the ionosphere will be disrupted by mechanical forces caused by the pressure wave following the explosion. At the same time, large quantities of ionizing radiation will be released. NASA announced the consequences of the high-altitude nuclear test was that they completely destroyed the Van Allen belt. And then from the detonation of this shit, they created a new sort of one, but a different one. 1958, 67 years ago. Also, things you're not hearing on the news are all the fucking flooding and the earthquakes. And in Alaska, there's one little gone, pretty much gone, right? You understand that the work that they're doing up there, they can change jet streams. They have things up in the sky that would stagger the mind. Stagger your mind. And we know nothing about it. Because we have been woohooed, mind-controlled, brainwashed, indoctrinated to not look up. And if anybody talks about it, you're insane. No, it's happening. What they've been doing up there, oh my God. And that is just stuff that you can find patents and information about, and people that will talk about it. Can you imagine? You imagine what they've accomplished in 67 years. All to control us. All to control us and change who we are. So there's that aspect of it. So you've got the medication war, right? Where they're having you willingly taking these, thinking they're going to do something. And some of them, you know what? I've taken antibiotics when I've been really sick, right? Were they a good thing? At the time, they seemed like a good thing. Now because for everything that you take, there's an action. There's an opposite action. There's a reaction, right? And most people are not aware of that. And most people are on more than one drug. Older people are on multiple drugs, so you can't understand, but it's all having an effect. Yeah, come on. Alzheimer's disease, all these sort of brain neurological things, really, when I was younger, you didn't see them because they didn't exist. They're created. They're fucking around with your head, right? They're destroying the hippocampus, which I've talked about, the frontal lobes of the brain. They're activating the reptilian part, the fight or flight. You know, there are going to be people that are terrified of what's happening economically. You know, you have to sit back and look at it like you're observing it. When the ball starts to fucking snowball down the hill, sometimes you just have to get out of the way and watch it go down. Because this snowball, you're not going to stop, right? You just want to get through it in a different way and understand that you need to change, because you do. And you need to understand where the war is fought. It's fought in you. These different things and what's happening. Everything that's happening in an electric universe affects you because you're electric. And now I'm going to link this Nano-Sapiens to have you better understand what they're finding in people's bloods. And it's on all of us, by the way. It's more so in those that took this, right? Because that was the whole point of that, right? But we're breathing it in the air. They can make quantum robots that are so small, they can go into your system and they can program them. They can program with all the electrical energy that they're fucking pumping in and highly sensitizing it. They're destroying, and as she says in here, I'll read it to you. I thought this was very good because this is what I believe right? That they're destroying the environment where us, Homo sapiens, humans, point one, actually thrive. And so they've destroyed that, and they've been destroying that. I can't find the quote in here, but there was a quote. Another guy said the same thing, a scientist, that really this is all that this is just to change the environment, right? To make it more. If you are a synthetic electrical being, right? We are a biological soft technology, but we're an electrical being of some sorts. God the Creator made us. We are not privy to the information about who we really are. We really have no understanding that the amount of lies and manipulation that have gone down from the beginning of time, right? So now they are creating an environment. They first want to try with you to see if they can turn you into an automaton, turn you into a robot. It's not that robots are becoming human, it's that humans are becoming robots. And that, barring that, you'll die. And it doesn't matter to them one way or the other because they're experimenting on you. These are the same scientists' information that was gleaned during the Second World War, but they've been around for millennium too. This energy, as David Whitehead points out, these ancient, when you look at Masonic and you go back to these secret societies, they go back to ancient Egypt. Like Jason Christoph says, the death cults. What we're seeing now is basically related to ancient Egypt. These secret societies, and this march towards totalitarianism. And I'll explain that. That's sort of the end part that I'll end with, the totalitarianism. And a little story. I want to tell you a story about someone that I worked with. So we have all of this going on. Now let's just take a little bit more about what they're going. What the fuck are these fuckers doing this? And, they're doing it without your consent. So these nanoparticles that we're breathing in. I do have a theory about that too. I think if we understand and know this beautiful body that has, as they say, 97% junk DNA, can do an awful lot to battle against that because our minds create reality, right? So if we understand a little bit, poco, about how consciousness works and the field of energy that we're in and that we're in the now, and we got to stay out of the past, we got to plan for the future, I think that we can deflect some of the damage that these things do to us with our understanding of what is actually going on, because it's actually going on. In my mind, there's no two ways about it, and it's hard evidence that I'm reading. And when I look at people's research, like David Whitehead, you can't go wrong with this guy's. The people that he follows and gets a lot of his information from, these guys are philosophers. They actually look at things, right? They actually look at the old text. They do their research. Right? They're not alternative. That's not alternative. Media has been caught. So when he looks at the occult origins of totalitarianism, and also he did the cult of the medics, which was phenomenal, then you understand it more. The dark arts and what pharmacia and medicina really is, right? It's not for mankind's betterment. Take a look around. Does it look like it's for mankind's betterment? And then all the stuff that they're doing with weather warfare, and that it's getting more and more because they're closing the digital prison. So when the economy does crash, because it will indeed crash, they want central digital bank currencies, and they want digital ID. That has to be part of the control system that they're creating. So as David White has said, this has been going on. So what is the Masonic temples were actually, what was it called? The International. And date back to the 1700s, they were writing down this same shit that is going on now, right? And it's under socialism. But socialism, we've been taught socialism is one thing. It's not. It really is a sort of a soft, gentle name for totalitarianism. And that communism, fascism, all the Nazism, they all fall under totalitarianism because that's the goal. Total total control. And he actually explains quite nicely through information that he has found, research, that sort of they put communism out to the working man, because it speaks to the working man, working for the man, and you're getting ripped off and blah 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 if you come together, but it's all the same, the collectivism, right? The homogenization of everything, and that nobody has any money, and that you look at communism. It's never worked. People die. That's the whole point. And then you get into fascism that kind of look at Mussolini's Italy, right? Where there's the states and the private entities are combined. And you can see that in all the westernized countries, this public partner, partnerships. That's fascism. But then you take it to technocracy, which will allow total control of human beings, and they'll be able to tell you exactly what to do and what not to do. Right? So that's totalitarianism, and all the economies are moving towards this because that has always been the plan. This plan, this international, right? That is the one world order. And we are galloping down that fucking road. And it all comes with convenience, don't you find? Right? You don't want to be sick for too long. You don't want to use some of the old ways. Take this will make you better now. Or you don't want to risk getting pregnant. You don't want to use contraceptive or the different methods that are available out there, right? So it's all for ease and convenience. And that is going to be the jail. Right? Ease and convenience until they tell you, you have to take this to get this, because we won't give you your money if you don't take this. Because it's also this medical totalitarianism, everything. And they get to call the shots and tell you what to do because they own you. I've been saying this for years. Our governments have sold us. And the thing is, we've always been sold. We've always been cattle. The next little story. I want to tell you about one of my clients. She's now passed away. So when I worked in Toronto, I just used to do home visits. So really interesting areas. This was in Moss Park, and she lived on the 10th story, and she was 95. And she was of German descent. She came to Canada during the Second World War. Her name was Elspeth, and she was like 5 foot fuck all. She was this tiny little woman. And I went in because I would do long-term follow-up with people, make sure they were okay. They lived out in the community and they were at huge risk. So Elspeth was pretty much completely blind and pretty much completely deaf. But do you think that kept that woman down? No way. Her apartment was impeccably clean. I don't know how she did it. She did have somebody come in and help her that was actually from Ethiopia. And they basically stole everything off her. Acted like her daughter. They were very kind to her, but they stole everything because they said, well, why would you need it? You're going to die. And of course, she never said anything. So when I first went in, my first was, how do you get money with people? Well, you got the proper money coming in from the government. Are you getting what you need? That to me was the baseline of what we started with. And she said, well, I walked to the bank. It was like right downtown Toronto, right? Wellington Street, right at the heart, Wellington and Yonge, I think. So I said, well, how do you get across the crosswalks? Well, she said, well, I can't see, but I can hear. But she couldn't hear. You'd have to knock on that door. You'd have to pretty much yell at her. But she was all there mentally. And so she told me the story of how she came to Canada, right? And that the SS were after her because she didn't agree with Hitler's world, right? She was being watched. Everybody was being watched. Hitler had nothing to do with the German people. He killed the German people just like he killed everybody else, because it's all part of this, right? Occult group, cult, the occult cult. So she told me about a part. She went to this one area that was on the water, right? And it was kind of like a resort area. And she was swimming with other people. And then the bombs started falling, and how she hid under the boat and didn't die. And also in buildings, this little woman would go up with other people when the incendiary bombs would fall, right? She would shovel them off the roof of the apartment buildings and stuff like that. She was my hero. She was like this grand lady. And how do you live in this world where you're really locked in her mind? Well, she told me all the different things that she would do to keep herself going, right? And then she said the Roman Catholic Church actually paid for her to come, but you had to pay it back. They didn't do it out of grace or anything like that. And she got really sick when she first came here, and she couldn't do the duties. You had to either work in domestic service or sort of service industry. She was a waitress, and so she couldn't work, so she couldn't pay them, and so they were going to return her to Germany after missing one payment. And it was the Jewish rabbi that she lived with that actually gave her money. Right? So when we judge people, don't judge people. We're all of the same human being, and we're all being diverted and divided and warring. So I think we need to understand the entities that we're dealing with, because they're the same entities. I mean, paperclip dispersed them throughout everywhere. Canada got a bunch of them. Argentina got a bunch of them. These are the same. NASA, the guy that ran NASA was, big fucking mucky muck in the Nazi SS. But it's not the people per se, just like the Israeli people. No, it's the acculturation is basically programming. You're being programmed. So we need to take the bull by the horns and program ourselves and stay away from the fucking pharmacia, right? Understand more about what's going on. Educate yourself. So I'll link the things by the Nano-Sapiens. That's just a little. Now it's on Alec Jones. I don't like Alec Jones. I don't like him. Yeah, I don't trust him as far as I get through him, but I do like the fellow that he has on there. He's reputable. So I will share that. And then the David Whitehead, I think that that's very important information, right? And you can, putter about and listen to it. I listened to it as I was driving because I think it's important to understand. I don't think people have a real knowledge of what's, and then you can decide on your own. Do you want to be a fucking slave, or do you want to stand up against these people? Because it's going to come. Something's going to come. Right? I see United States with this government shut down. That's just fueling the fire. And I guess in November, if they don't go back, people on food stamps won't be getting food stamps. People last about 3 days without food, right? And then it becomes a fucking shit show. I know that's not happy news, but you know what? You are the power. Empower yourself with knowledge and being the best you can be, and understanding where you're at. Okay, take care.